Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on feminist perspectives of education. In most textbooks, you're unlikely to find feminist perspectives of education as a topic heading, quite simply because most of the feminist ideas are embedded into the section on gender differences in education. However, when you're looking at the bigger picture in sociology, being able to spot some of the contributions of feminist approaches to education not only helps with answering the kind of theoretical functions of education questions, but can also be used in the 20-mark theory and methods questions to highlight some of the contributions of feminism to our understanding of contemporary society. Feminism makes several contributions to our understanding of society, and in this video we're going to examine those. Firstly, it helps to explain patterns of achievement by different genders, focusing first on the historical underachievement, and in a more contemporary way the improvements in girls' achievements over the last 40 years. A second contribution is the experience of different genders in education. Now, experience is a term that has been used on several papers since the launch of the new specification in 2015, and it refers to many different aspects of a student's time in education: self-esteem, objectification, identity formation, opportunities, interactions, and of course achievement, all fall within this broad definition. If a question does ask you to comment on student experience, it's useful to do so by talking about two or more of these categories. A third contribution is to gender socialisation, and in particular the way socialisation traditionally leads to girls being perceived as less intelligent and how gender socialisation improves girls' chances of success. Another is gendered identities, how schools can shape the gender identity and influences it has on defining our gender identity. And finally, subject images and career choices. Another area where feminist approaches have made significant changes that have impacted on girls' experiences of education and their career prospects. So we'll begin by looking at some of the historical trends in education. Prior to the 1980s, girls' achievement was seen as an issue in the education system. Not much was expected of girls in the way of achievement, with general assumptions that many girls would go on to leave school and go into the traditional expressive role. The first part of Sue Sharp's study highlights this, with girls having aspirations to marry and have children. Those girls that did go into employment would most likely end up working in the lower paid sectors such as retail or administration, and their subject choices, although the use of choice can be questioned, reflect this. However, since the mid to late 1980s, girls' achievement has overtaken boys, so much so that boys' educational achievement is seen as being an issue in the 21st century. The impact of second wave feminism moving from one generation to the next has increased career aspirations, again highlighted by Sharp's follow-up in the 1990s. The increased number of females involved in education and educated female role models in society all illustrate the changes over the past 40 years that have come about as a result of changing attitudes, mostly due to the feminist movement. However, feminists would still challenge that education is patriarchal and not equal. This, in part, is due to the negative experiences of females in the education system and how often girls' issues are either neglected or seen as secondary to boys' issues. For example, sexual harassment in schools is often not treated with the seriousness that it would be treated with in the workplace. Attitudes of boys will be boys prevail in some areas, with some teachers unwilling to fully challenge sexist behaviour from male to female students. Furthermore, there are higher expectations on girls for their behaviour than boys. As boys are often socialised into being loud and boisterous, this behaviour is sometimes not challenged from males, but would be challenged from it if it were displayed by a female student because it goes against their gender role. Feminists would also suggest that girls are subject to stricter controls than boys, and often take the blame for boys' behaviours. Girls are often sent home if their appearance distracts boys, sending the message to girls that their education is less important than that of their male peers. Feminism has also examined the role of gender socialisation and its impact on educational achievement of girls. Feminists suggest that gender socialisation appears to put girls at a disadvantage in society as they're socialised into being passive, obedient and subservient, which allows teachers and parents to exercise greater control over them. Girls are often provided with less freedom in comparison to boys, with controls on their time, space and bodies more evident than those experienced by males. Furthermore, girls are socialised through the process of canalisation into more expressive roles. Gendered toys and books and learning activities reinforce the position of female in the expressive role, and research by Loban found that children's books Children's books and fairy tales often present female characters in domestic roles, while males are presented as being more likely to be adventurous and daring, which reinforces their position as being dominant in society. However, many critics would suggest that gender socialisation often gives girls an advantage in the education system, particularly as they're socialised into conformity and obedience, which makes them appear as the ideal pupil. The lack of control on boys can also be seen to be a limiting factor in education, with boys being presented as having a boisterous nature, which leads to teachers having lower expectations of academic success of boys. Feminists also are concerned with the role that schools play in the formation of gender identities. Many would criticise education for enforcing traditional stereotypes of gender identity onto girls while they're in the education system. This is achieved through enforcing uniform regulations that mean that girls need to conform to feminine but passive gender identities. Girls' appearances are routinely controlled through being told what they can and cannot wear. And whilst this is also true of males, girls face more severe sanctions for their choice of hair colour, makeup, jewellery. As previously discussed, they are also sanctioned for wearing clothes that may be distracting to boys, which suggests that males are unable to control their actions and therefore females must control theirs. Furthermore, double standards of sexual behaviour exist in schools as well as wider society. Boys are lauded for their sexual exploits as it reaffirms this hegemonic masculinity, while girls are discouraged from discussing or condemned for their sexual behaviours, something which mirrors wider social controls upon women and forms part of their gender identity. Sport is another way in which identity is formed, with gender differences in choice of sports and perceptions of girls who engage with sports an area of focus for feminists. Gendered subject images have also been examined by feminists in education. The traditional male domains of maths and science and feminine domains of arts and humanities have been portrayed as fixed. Yet one of the lasting contributions of feminism has been to challenge these stereotypical images and make male domains more accessible to female students. Initiatives such as GIST, Girls in Science and Technology, and WISE, Women in Science and Engineering, have seen increased interest in STEM subjects amongst girls, as evidenced by A-Level entries and registration for undergraduate courses. However, this has not been replicated for males, which has resulted in subjects in the feminine domain retaining a label of being girly subjects. Furthermore, it is these subjects, the arts and humanities, that are seen as having less value to the economy, creating a hierarchy of knowledge in which the feminine domain is seen as having less value. Despite the progress that feminists have made in changing aspects of the education system and improving girls' achievement, gender inequality remains in wider society. The glass ceiling is still evident, and with the gender pay gap only narrowing slightly, there is still much progress to be made. Of course, liberal feminists would suggest that progress has been made, and they would be correct, but not perhaps at the desired pace. Despite underachieving in comparison to their female counterparts, males still hold the majority of top positions in society, earn more money, and have greater access to power in society. Jackson suggests that despite this imbalance, the concern of government policy has been to tackle the educational underachievement of boys, rather than to tackle inequalities in wider society. However, many feminists would suggest that progress will be made over time, and with 80% of education graduates being female, there is more potential to address gender inequalities in society through education, and that there is a march of progress towards gender equality in society in younger generations. That concludes this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on feminism and education. Thanks for watching.